I want to talk today about just an odd little miscommunication. And I know I've said in my blog, I don't know if I've said here on YouTube, one of the things you have to learn to do here, you got to stay flexible, and you need to learn to listen to the meaning of what is said, not necessarily the words they use. They do speak English a little differently than we do, and if you want to wave around your dictionary and argue with them, you can, but it's not really going to help because you're not going to change them. When they say open the light, they mean turn on the light. You know it, they know it. They make fun of themselves for it, but they still say it. So if they say open the light, just turn it on. Well, we were talking with some neighbor girls, and I was confused. So I did ask for clarification because I wasn't sure what I heard. Well, I know kind of what I thought they meant, but not really. We were talking to these two girls, sisters, 19 and 20, and one of them, the 19-year-old, is in college, has shown no interest in foreigners. It always comes up because so many people ask me to fix them up with a foreigner, and I don't know any that are looking, and I do not want to run a dating service, so I'm not looking for any foreigners to look for Filipinas. But they always ask me, even like people at the mall, they'll just come up to me and say, hey, do you have a friend? And she said the only foreigner she wants is a young Korean. I was like, fair enough. The other one, 20-year-old girl, always, and she's long hair, very pretty. Both of them are just drop dead gorgeous. That doesn't really have anything to do with the story, but they just are. So the 20-year-old always posts pictures of what they would call here as a tomboy. A very masculine haircut, clothing, mannerism girl. So I suspected that this 20-year-old was lesbian. When I inquired, the answer confused me. She is not lesbian, but her boyfriend is. That reminds me of the old joke in the US, I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is. And I was like, okay, wait. First, I know they get he, she stuff mixed up because they don't use gender pronouns in their native language. And when they use English, they'll talk about one person, they'll mix he and she in the same sentence. Again, you learn to live with that. It's not a problem. But boyfriend and girlfriend are used enough that I did not think there would be a confusion between the two. So I asked for clarification. I said, do you mean girlfriend? And they said, well, she's a tomboy. I'm like, okay, so a tomboy is a boyfriend. They're like, yeah, because it's like a guy. I'm like, okay. And this went into a long discussion, and I talked to my wife and some other friends, and what it's come down to is an interesting use of gender and sexuality. You will probably not find it in a dictionary, and it may be technically incorrect, but it is the way they speak here. I've heard bits and pieces of it, but this was the first time I had to really break it down for me. So let's try this. Okay, there is of course the binary genetic male, genetic female. But then the tomboy is like the more masculine girl. They are called as tomboy is almost used as another gender. It just kind of is. And then also ladyboy, which here in Southeast Asia, that is how they self-identify. It is not a slur as it has become in like the US. They self-identify as ladyboy, and it is used kind of, they know that tomboy and ladyboy are not another gender, but they are used as a gender term. So there's kind of four genders. Then what really confused me was sexual identity. I am used to, I'm old, so I don't understand all the numerous sexualities people identify with now. To me, it's always been rather simple. There's like gay, straight, bi. If I think about it, there might be another couple, but there's a lot more now. But here, the old joke of I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is like what they said about her. She's not lesbian, but her boyfriend is. Here, that's true. What they mean is a female, whether you're regular female, tomboy, doesn't matter, any female that is attracted to feminine females is lesbian. A female attracted to manly females, like the tomboys, is straight. You have to think about it, but I see what they're saying. And the same holds true for men. A man attracted to manly men is gay. A man attracted to the effeminate men or lady boys is straight. And I'm like, but they're really not. And they're like, no, because if you're attracted to the manly, man, that makes you gay. If you're attracted to the feminine men, because you're attracted to the feminine part, that keeps you straight. I'm like, okay, so you could be dating the really super effeminate man and then later marry a woman, and the whole time you were straight. And I used that girl as an example. I said she could have this tomboy friend and then later marry a guy and she's straight the whole time. And they're like, yes. Okay. So it took me a minute to understand, because sometimes, we speak the same language differently. So sometimes there's misunderstandings, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding what they were saying. And I did understand what they said. In context, I knew what I thought they meant, but I had to ask for clarification, and it was in fact what I thought they meant. I was just a little confused because I had not heard that before. And I've been here almost 5 years, and this was a new one. This just was this week. I was like, that's interesting. And I know some expats that want to wave around a dictionary and say this, means that and that. It doesn't really work here, because already American English, British English, Australian English, we can barely speak. Nobody can speak to Australians, right? They're nice guys, but they got a whole nother language. But it's English. And Filipino English is different as well. You gotta just go with the flow. If there's a scheduled power outage, it's a brownout. If the lights just dim and come back, it's a brownout. If a tree falls, knocks the wire down, and is off for a week, it's still a brownout. Now, if you think there's a difference between brownout and blackout, and that difference would bother you, you're going to have problems here. I know the difference between a brownout and a blackout, but like I said, I've been here almost 5 years. So when our power was out for 3 days because a tree fell down and broke the wire, I called it a brownout. In the U.S., I would call it a blackout. Here, I call it a brownout because that's what they call it. And it's the same thing. It just was very confusing with the sexual identity. I've heard people talk about someone that was straight, but dated. He was a guy that was straight, but he had a boyfriend. And I never understood how he was considered straight. And I finally asked for clarification, and it is because it's a feminine man that he's with. I'm like, okay. And I'm okay with that because honestly, it's none of my business what consenting adults do with each other anyway. I don't care. What labels you want, I don't care because it's none of my business. I know who I am and I know what I like and I don't care what anybody else does. But when it comes up in conversation, sometimes it's confusing. So if you hear them speaking like this and you're like, wait a minute, you're using these words differently than I would, man, you got to roll with the punches, go with the flow, whatever works. Just enjoy it. You can kind of privately smile and laugh about some of it. When you're around other expats, you can go, man, I heard a new one, and everybody will probably get a giggle out of it. But there's no sense in arguing with anybody here saying that they're using the wrong words or using the words incorrectly, because they are not going to change for you. There's 100 million people around here, and they all agree on how to speak. You are wrong. So, or I am wrong. So I accept whatever they want to say. But sometimes you do have to ask for clarification and go, wait a minute. I know the words individually, but the way you're using them is confusing me. And you politely ask for clarification. And then you accept it and say, okay, that's what it means. And you just keep on going.
Enjoy your day in paradise.